What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. Today, I have my good friend. He's coming back. He's here. He's the famous actor that we all know and love, Marc Anthony Sarria. What's going on?
What's going on, man? What an intro.
Yeah,
I'm,
you know me. I'm working
I'm
on them, man.
love it, bro. Yeah, man. Bro, you know why we're here. Everybody knows why we're here. Nobody knows that they need this, but our opinions on the Spider-Man Far From Home.
Buddy, Spider-Man Far From No, it's not Far From Home. It's No Way Home. And I know you got confused, and it's okay because what it is that these titles all have home in it. So
Which I honestly don't love, man. I think that was a really random thing for them to go with, the whole home theme. Obviously, Homecoming I think was appropriate, but I think they could have just done something different with this sequel.
yeah, to be honest, I didn't know it was gonna be like a like No
Like
Way
a
Home, Far From
trend.
Home. Yeah, like it was gonna keep going. But nevertheless, like whatever happened to old school like 2 or 3, right?
Right?
But that was
People
the
got bored
Sam
of that
Raimi
shit.
days, which we'll get into because you know me, how passionate I am about what's to come. Anyway, so Spider-Man No Way Home, we're all excited. For those of you who don't know, for those of you living under a rock, it is the third installment of the Tom Holland series from the MCU. Very excited about this film. Wasn't too crazy about the second one, I'll be honest with you. I enjoyed that they went to Italy and they did location shoots and things like that. But for the most part, it just seemed a little bit convoluted and overhyped. But this film is genuinely properly hyped. I just saw the other day it has 75 million views, the trailer alone. Um, and the reason why is because the filmmakers here, the story here is providing more substance as opposed to the source material. And what I mean by that is we're getting into meta. And what's meta? Sorry, right? It's basically when fiction is told, is recognized by our realities are recognized in fiction. And the whole multiverse is coming about. We all know that there's other Spider-Mans that existed before us. And the Tom Holland series, like the Garfield series, it kind of ignores the previous ones. But this time, they're acknowledging the multiverse. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this trailer and this film as a whole.
Oh, bro. So honest, so how deep the Marvel nerd goes in me and in most of us, and the backtrack.
No,
Okay.
man, I know how excited you are for being a Marvel fan. Like that's another reason why, by the way, I'm bringing Saria on the podcast is because this guy's no DC guy. All right, this is a Marvel, born and bred character.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I have a lot of I started with DC. Their characters are like, I think, very gritty, especially in the comics. I found Marvel to be like really, in the comics rather, like really bright, and just like they always had like these grandiose like storylines, and DC was always more of like an isolated moment, or some more down to earth thing. But in the movies, man, Marvel's killing it. The way the MCU has just set everything up to lead to this point. I was actually talking to my girl about the multiverse concept and how that is an amazing next step. And I'm happy they didn't do it in the first phase, because or in the Infinity Saga, because we were talking about how what a cop out that kind of is at times. It's
Yeah, for
really
sure.
good right now that they really laid the groundwork. They put the movies in, the tie-ins of all these films to lead up to the Infinity Saga or Endgame.
Mhm.
And now it only makes sense, or rather the approach that they're taking to this whole multiverse, to add different properties across Sony, um, from like Fantastic Four to X-Men to OG Spider-Man's. Like, they're all making that canon now, right? And
Yeah,
they're able to say that's a multiverse thing, like in
yeah.
world 600, whatever, this exists there, right? And to build to basically what I'm going to say about this trailer, I like, it's just really important to talk about what's happened so far in the multiverse, or how that's sort of taken steps forward in like Loki and in WandaVision, and now in in Spider-Man, where it's kind of like going to come to fruition, that opening of the multiverse, right? That happened at the end of WandaVision, where she was sort of doing her thing, middle of nowhere, cracking the code of life, trying to
Yeah,
figure out what she's doing post not having a fake family. And then Loki, where he literally finds his way by the end of the season to the gatekeeper of the multiverse.
right.
And then, did you watch all of Loki?
I did watch all of Loki, yeah, and it's kind of some of it is a bit of a blur, but like for the most part, no, it's actually coming to me as I'm speaking. Like I know exactly
Yeah.
what happened in the ending, and it was a strange concept, and it was kind of very unpredictable, which is what I enjoyed.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was awesome, man. And
yeah,
it was actually one of my favorite seasons. It was just that whole sci-fi vibe. But Loki like himself killed it. But
I even
to
like the
add
variations of him, like the girl version and
exactly the
stuff. Like she
variants.
killed it. Yeah, the variants. I mean, yeah, and
Yeah.
just meeting that timekeeper at the end. Is that what he is?
Yeah.
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 Kang. So
Yeah, the whole
he's
speech he made, the writing, I have to say, like usually I don't, because as filmmakers we're always cluing into like how it's constructed, right?
yeah.
A creative project, but I just want to say this, like with the writing, like the dialogue was actually captivating. Like it reminded me like Tarantino style.
The actor made it entertaining, right?
Yeah,
And
of course, yeah.
so I thought it was really interesting to because he's gonna be one of the next big baddies moving forward, and I was excited that they introduced a big baddie in like a season finale of a Disney Plus series as
Yeah.
opposed to like a movie, right? So it was kind of cool to plant those seeds, but he was the keeper of time, and then Sylvie killed him, and then that's almost the moment I think the multiverse kind of breaks in half, and that is all gonna I think cross over with that moment in the trailer where there's that the whole thing in the sky,
Right, right.
and you know what I mean, like these are all links to a
Oh, because at the end of
moment.
the trailer, yeah, because I want to get into that. Like, so that I have to say, it's very plausible to me because everything has to make sense, right? You have to justify the action. You can't just say like, oh, like we want more Spider-Man in the movie. But Doctor Strange there, like he has the power, right? It's been established that he can access dimensions and things like that, right? Or create spells. So that was plausible. So what you're saying is that they're gonna expand it even more or
So
touch on it
there
even more with
so it
what happened
almost
in the land of Loki.
yeah, so it almost
Hmm.
feels like it's this singular moment from the
Hmm.
perspective of all of these different people at different times.
Right.
So that's what I believe is happening, that like there's this like convergence or like this moment, this singular moment where the multiverse cracks open, and it shows it at the end of WandaVision, and then it shows it
Oh, right,
um
right.
in um in um in Loki when they kill Kang, which is the guy at the end.
Yeah.
And now it's spilling into where Spider-Man is, right? And this is when we can get into the trailer. So
There's a line I wanted to ask you because we're on that subject. So at the end of the second trailer, Doctor Strange looks up in the sky and says something like the timeline's broken or something, and like it's been unleashed or released. Like what does that mean? What's
so
your knowledge towards that?
so I don't think the continuity in the trailer is the true continuity of the film. I
Right.
think I think that they put that at the end of the trailer to essentially tease people, make people think that they were talking about it was the Spider-Mans or something.
And naturally, you think it's the end of the movie too, right? Like the climax, because you're
But I
thinking.
don't
Because yeah, go ahead. Go.
I don't think that's what it is, because if you hear the dialogue, like he
Yeah.
says, "Oh, something's trying to come through and I can't stop it,"
Yeah.
right? And if it was the Spider-Man, why would he want to stop that? But it could also be like he doesn't know. Maybe that is when the Spider-Man, he doesn't know what's coming through, and he can maybe just sense or feel that it's like big, or like its energy is huge, and then it ends up being the Spider-Man, right? But a lot of people are saying that it could be the introduction of a villain at that time. But they've been, and I don't know if you've seen any of the details of like how they've edited, there are certain shots in that trailer where they edited it out, Toby and Andrew or something. And in particular, there's this scene.
Oh, they actually
uh
did. You're saying they removed. Okay, now we're getting to juicy details. They
it's
removed CGI, like digitally.
yes, Yeah.
Wow.
So and they've done this before in like other Marvel trailers,
Yeah,
where
yeah, for sure.
they'll show like shots that don't exist in the movie. It's
They'll
kind of
even
just
change
like
a
for a trailer
location
shot.
to throw you off, so you expect that look like that scene to come up, but you don't know where it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And for example, in Spider-Man Far From Home, the trailer, sorry, in Spider-Man Far From Home, the trailer at the beginning, when he's like basically telling everybody, oh, he's taking a break, going on vacation. In the trailer, he's actually wearing his Stark suit. In the movie, in that exact same scene, he's wearing the Iron Spider.
Right.
So there's certain things that they do where they kind of go in and they change something with CGI to like misdirect or something. But there's a legit version of the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. Sorry, No Way Home trailer. It's the Brazilian trailer where they show a few extra seconds of the Sinister Six battle at the end when they start
Mm.
like jumping at each other. And if you look down and look at like how all of the villains are like jumping into that fight,
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying.
you see that they're going in opposite directions or in different directions in Spider-Man that's shown
Oh,
Tom
so you
Holland in
really
the shot.
analyze. I didn't see that. No, I didn't catch that.
Well, so this is I'm a part of a bunch of like, and I follow a bunch of people who analyze this shit and like
Oh,
they
okay, okay,
post
okay. I
breakdowns and
understand.
everything.
Right,
So
right,
there's
right.
things that I catch up and that I catch on my own, but I always watch these videos that break frame by frame Easter eggs, references, and there's always packed
Right.
packed references and everything. But in this particular
See, I try to
moment,
stay away from it because I don't want to ruin, you know what I mean? Like the element of surprise and stuff. But I could see you because I
yeah.
know you're even more obsessed with like Marvel. So you
Oh,
have to know like what the hell is happening. And that's what I want. I want to get to my next point, right? Like, okay, so again, we established that the multiverse exists. It's going to be introduced into this film. So we're very excited. And that opens up an array of possibilities. Now, right now from the trailer, just upon watching it, rewatching it, I saw like characters that I didn't think were I was gonna see, right? Like the Sandman was in there, man, from Spider-Man 3. Um, Now the biggest thing here is everyone's expecting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but there's still some skeptics. There's still people that believe, and my cynical nature believes it too, that there might be a possibility they won't show up for legality reasons, contract reasons, or because they don't want to take away from the limelight or whatever from Tom Holland. Why should we believe that they're in it? Is there any other sources you can prove?
yes, as a matter of
Okay,
fact.
let's share the screen.
So,
So if you're watching the YouTube version, you'll be able to see what we're going to get into. All right. So I wanted, so sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to open up this panel here. And from what I've seen, I'll show you what I've seen that kind of convinced me. I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's Andrew Garfield on set.
oh, the picture of him, or like that video that like had no audio, and then you can
Yeah, he
kind of,
was just like on the green screen.
yeah.
Like, is this real, man?
I think this is real, and
Because that looks real, man.
I think this is real, and I think that that final scene in the trailer confirms that this is real,
Yeah,
because you see their entire fight, that whole last act fight of the trailer, it's around that Statue of Liberty or rebuilding Statue of Liberty with Captain America's shield or something, but they're scaffolding all the way around it. And
got you.
that was pretty much the confirmation that this was legit. And there was like a whole bunch of videos analyzing this and everything. And you could even see in the foreground, there's somebody who has gloves there, or someone who like there's hands in the shot there.
Yeah.
And people have paused this, manipulated this image to be able to see what those are, and those are Toby's hands, like the Sam Raimi
No
suit
way. They were
hands.
that good that they could actually pick up
Yes.
who they belong to. What?
And there's even videos that are like that that analyze what his lips are saying. Like people who can like read lips and everything have analyzed this, and he's saying, yeah, so you've got like web blood, and he's talking directly to Tobey Maguire, where obviously he's the
Oh,
only
because they like
Toby's the
you
only
meet. Yeah,
incarnation where it's organic,
you
right?
never had
Instead of
one
web
blonde.
shooters. Yeah. So that's so I think that's real. Aside from even just this,
Yeah.
I've been a part of, well, I've been a part of conversations where they've even revealed that they've hired the VFX teams from the OG trilogy and
Mhm.
the Amazing Spider-Man films. And people are saying that they brought these people on to like nail the movements of those characters. So it felt authentic to like how they felt when we last saw them. There was even leaks of the stunt doubles of both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man from their respective films appear in pictures or on set at during this film.
That's crazy.
So there's all this proof, and they've just never like confirmed it, right? So
But
it's
how
like,
did he keep it hush hush? Like these movies have so many random production people, craft services. Like it's amazing. Like I think they kind of threatened them
well, this is
with a
what like,
financial lawsuit.
well, definitely they sign
Like look at
NDAs.
this. Like
Yes,
this
and
is
then
crazy.
this is a huge leak that that surfaced a couple of or like a couple of weeks ago, where this is a legit shot, and
That's crazy.
then that shot beside there is like a rework of the Green Goblin, and obviously you see his and that's a stunt double or something,
Yeah,
but
it
you
has to be.
see, and like you even see the similarities in the
No, it's the
suit,
same.
right?
It's the same design. It's just charred up. Yeah,
It
you can
kind
see
of
the.
looks like the nightmare Batman scene in Justice League version of Green Goblin, the same way that Batman had like his whole like sort of
X coming out
Savage
too.
Land getup.
Yeah. No, no. Oh,
Uh,
I know what you're saying. Sorry, you're saying the tool. Yeah, the belt and yeah.
well, no,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's sick. Yeah.
so do you remember in the Snyder cut, or sorry, in Justice League, where
Batman versus
Batman,
Superman. But
yeah, well Batman has this nightmare, right? And then that's
yeah,
like when
yeah.
like Flash comes in, and in that whole nightmare sequence, he's wearing like this trench coat, and he looks like all badass, like he's kind of like running through like the
Yeah,
Savage
yeah, I
Lands.
get
Like
it.
that's kind of like what Green Goblin looks like there. um anyway,
Yeah, it's kind of
yeah.
like not that, but
Not that.
like this, right? Yeah, I
It has
remember
this
this.
similar look, like goggles and everything. Anyway, um, so there's two shots in the trailer where people see the Green Goblin, and obviously, like you get that money shot of like the OG Green Goblin, um, in like full on getup, but then
But
you're
even
also,
even the laugh is, like I should mention, is accurate, like
yeah,
to
and
Willem
even this,
Dafoe, right?
yeah,
Oh, that and that's the
there,
shot. Yeah, that's
there
the
you go,
shot.
that's the shot.
Yeah.
And they haven't confirmed Willem Dafoe either,
Uh,
officially.
okay,
um
officially.
um and I
That's
think,
fine. Like I just want to mention one thing. Like, let's say for whatever reason he can't. Not that I'll be heartbroken. There'll be part of me that would be like upset. Just the only thing they cannot make it worse is don't show another actor. Like, just keep the mask on, if that makes sense.
yeah,
You know
I
what I
know what you
mean? Like,
mean.
just keep the illusion that he is underneath the costume if he can't actually do the job, because you're gonna, yeah, ruin it for us.
Oh, bro, I don't know what actor would turn this movie down. This movie, I think, might top Endgame in terms
Oh
of.
yeah. You know
Do you know what
what?
I
I never
mean?
let's bro. That's a separate. Okay, so let's get into that. Like, you think financially it'll just like
Huge. The
yeah
expectations for this movie are off the charts, man. And this is, I think, the only movie in the lineup of Marvel, aside from a next Avengers movie, that would top Endgame, because there's
because
so
other
much
than yeah
investment, right? Like people, this is like three generations of Spider-Man fans,
yeah,
right?
and
Like this
also
isn't
people, but also people before that that just will go because it's the brand Spider-Man. So you got
exactly.
those people, then you got our generation, right? Then you got my sister's generation, the Gen Zs. We got the millennials, the Gen Zs, and then we got the kids now, right? That are watching the Tom Holland ones. On top
Exactly.
of that, you got the people that love the MCU, right? And
Right.
then want to see, like, what happens next and whatever. So it's like a combination. Like,
Yeah.
there are people I know, like I know I follow High Top Films on YouTube. Huge advocate, huge proponent of the Sam Raimi
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Like, he loves it to
I
death.
actually love that channel, man. He
Yeah,
goes,
amazing, right?
yeah, that guy's video essays on a lot of the Marvel stuff that I've seen are like so well articulated, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, and
shout
he
out to
just
High
shares
Tops.
such a yeah, like shout out to him. But what I'm saying is that, like, hearing him talk, like, that's a guy that's gonna show up. You know what I mean? Like, let's say he doesn't like the MCU. Let's say he doesn't like No Way Home. I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling like he's not a fan of what they've done with the new Spider-Man. He'll still show up with that possibility that there's going to be some, glimpse of his childhood, right? Nostalgia.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man, with No Way Home and with Spider-Man in general, like I love each and every one of the Spider-Man for different things. Um Toby, I thought was a great Peter Parker. I never loved his Spider-Man
Okay.
in terms of how he acted as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's OG, love it. I love the movies, man. But when it comes to like Spider-Man, I really like the way Andrew Garfield interpreted Spider-Man, but I didn't love his interpretation of Peter Parker. I thought that Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was too charismatic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was too, he was too polished where it was like,
you know
he's
what I mean?
actually like geeky and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but his Spider-Man was witty and his Spider-Man was funny as it
Yeah.
should be.
And he's
In
the
that,
comic book. Yeah, exactly.
and from that perspective is why I didn't love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, because it wasn't quippy. It
And
didn't
people,
feel
yeah.
it didn't
Sorry, go
feel like
ahead.
it didn't feel humorous or funny, and that's really just what, like, at the bottom of it, like, he's a hero, but he's a kid at heart. And even though he's older in the Raimi series, like, it doesn't feel like he carries that light humor with him as he's saving things. It felt more grounded and more serious. Granted, that might be what they were going for, but
Yeah,
definitely as an
Toby, yeah.
interpretation.
Like my opinion is like with Toby is the reason why I love him is I always interpret like when he put on the suit and the way he acted was so noble, so heroic. Now a lot of people, especially like our generation, will like poke fun looking back and say, "Wow, this guy was so awkward, so weird, so whatever." But there was something about like that conviction that he had, where like you were saying is with Andrew Garfield, yeah, he was charismatic, he was outgoing, and I love that, right? Like he knew he even had to talk to this blonde girl. Like it was quirky, but it wasn't like he was flirting with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like it just like maybe it was done on purpose, maybe it wasn't, but it didn't seem like Spider-Man because he had more of a darker edge to it, the Garfield one. Like it was edgier. It was more like of a rebellious nature. Like he would get upset, he'd get pissed off. And it's like Spider-Man in my eyes isn't that way. Um, Spider-Man comes across more so like the Tobey Maguire way. Tom Holland one, yeah, he's great and all. The only issues I have is that I wouldn't even say they're issues because I can see Spider-Man being like that. Again, I'm not too familiar with the comics. I'm just going off of pop culture, but he came across a little bit too much of a kid, like happy-go-lucky and like, oops, sorry, I didn't know if like Tobey Maguire was like, yeah, he was geeky, he was awkward, and I get why people poke fun, but when he put on that suit, like Spider-Man 2, man, like you felt like this guy matured, like he's Spider-Man, like he has to take on this responsibility and he can't even have his own life and he has to see a girl
Yeah.
like that he loves like ripped away from him and you know what I mean? Like all these things culminating and it's like the other like the Zendaya one, like or whatever her name is, it's like I don't know. I just like I felt like a Family Channel kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It is
And
Disney, right? So
to your well, yes, and to your point, there is a weight that Tobey Maguire carried as Spider-Man, which honestly, in that perspective, I love, because wouldn't you get beat down and tired after years of being Spider-Man and after years of having to like sacrifice your
but he's
own
a kid,
personal
but bro,
life,
he's like imagine us like taking on that responsibility, as funny as it sounds, right?
right? So
We're in our 20s, like we're trying to pursue our own dreams and like we have to take on this responsibility because we feel an obligation, right?
exactly. And my only real gripe with Tom Holland's interpretation, it's the youngest that we've seen from the three, which is technically more comic accurate because
Yeah,
Spider-Man in the comics is a kid.
not 30.
So
Yeah.
but we can relate with an older character, which is why I love to see the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, because you can relate to that even more now as an adult with responsibilities that needs to pay rent, that
Yeah,
needs
yeah,
to
that was
do
so
all this
funny. I know, and they
rent.
show all the, but see, like you laugh, like you see those moments, you think they're corny, but if you watch them, and I think you appreciate them more when you get older, because
Yeah.
that feels raw, like that's real. You know what I mean?
right?
Like that's cool to see those little moments.
Right. So it's even more relatable. They aged really, really well because I think that they established him older. A thing that I do want to say about my gripe about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, it has nothing to do with his interpretation, more so how they've introduced him into the story. They've introduced him as like someone who requires help, someone who
Yeah.
is always under the mentorship of somebody, and it barely feels like he's had the opportunity to stand on his own 2 feet without the assistance of like Iron Man or an Avenger, or in this movie hopefully not. I hope it doesn't feel like Doctor Strange is like really carrying the weight of like his decisions, and obviously he's going to need to go through everything. And I hope that this, being a darker supposedly version, or the darker installment of this trilogy, I hope they go into like a traumatic place with him where he needs to deal with something
Yeah.
completely
So
on his own. Like they
and
need to
that's what
give
he
him
was
legs.
warning like his fans, like social media. Just wanted to interject where he was basically saying like prepare for this to not be a lighthearted feel good movie. It's going to be very
Right.
dark. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that that's what that character needs. He needs to just be Spider-Man on his own.
You know what I
And
would love?
yeah,
Because like back to your point about how he's like the youngest, is like I'm imagining some concept where like his wake up call, like to grow up, like mature, like stop asking for help, stop like being always like, oh, sorry, is like the two Spider-Mans because they're older than him, to kind of like remind them like who is Spider-Man, you know what I mean? And like who he
yeah,
should be, right? Because we don't have, well, as far as we know of alternate dimensions, right? But just imagine if like in an alternate dimension, or even like a older self, older one of ourselves would come to us, or even if we went to them when we were like 15, like we would look at ourselves so much differently by realizing how much we went through and say like you got to wake up, you got to smarten up, and you got to like grow up essentially.
100%. And
Yeah,
imagine coming from older versions of you, the only people that can literally relate to what it is you're going through,
to what it is you're going
telling
through,
you
right?
that, right? And this is my own little theory, but I hope that this is how this works out, because in the trailer it kind of picks up after like it kind of brushes through the events of like the first trailer really quickly in like the first minute, where
Yeah.
he approaches Doctor Strange. They do some spell, it doesn't work, and this pretty much glances right over that, to a point where like Doctor Strange is like, oh, so basically we messed up that spell, whatever. Now we're gonna try something else. And so we messed up this spell. People have been like, we've been receiving visitors from other universes, is the how that went, which makes me feel like in the early parts of the movie, they're gonna have that spell happen where everybody's gonna forget who he was, or forget that he's Spider-Man. And I think that, because remember in the first trailer when even when he was doing the spell and he was like, oh, but what about MJ? What about Ned? What about Aunt May? They should know, right? And then that's pretty much what ruined that spell. And then Doctor Strange was like, oh, that's not how it works. So I think that that spell is going to happen, and literally everyone is going to forget that he's Spider-Man, including the Avengers.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is where he needs to become like isolated, because he doesn't have anyone for support in that way.
Right.
Um, so I don't know how that's going to play out. I think that would be a really good place to start,
Yeah, for sure.
going down the way that I was talking about like, making him independent, like, because it clearly sounds or feels like that happens earlier in the movie. So maybe early on in the movie, he loses all his allies because they all forget from this spell that he's Spider-Man. And then, you
And
know
the
what I mean?
arc of the
So
character as well, like what I'm thinking, I like that idea a lot, where basically um he'll have the other Spider-Man kind of come in because no one else knows who he is other than maybe them, or like he can kind of, they can relate or understand what he's going through.
yeah,
And then like that'll help like with his arc or whatever, right? Like kind of rediscover who he is.
exactly. So I think that that would be a good place to start with this movie, since it looks like that happens earlier on, just to give him those legs. And then maybe, and then he's obviously talking with Ned and MJ throughout the trailer. Maybe
Look at
like,
that. That's crazy. He was like
right?
manipulating some sort of sorcery magic, or I don't know who
Well,
that
this is
Spider-Man was.
well, this is what they're saying, that Doctor Strange is going to create an integrated suit where Peter has the ability to do that, or like there's something on his wrist there, that
That looks
people
like
have
an
been
evil
like,
Spider-Man because he's looking this way. right? It almost looks like a confrontation, and Electro is in the back.
Who knows what he's even looking at?
Like, is he guarding him? You know what I mean?
People are saying that this black suit here is actually an inside out, like he's wearing the red and blue suit inside out, and
Bro,
people
could
were
this be
citing
Venom?
this. No. So
Oh,
this
okay, okay.
is so people are saying that's wiring, and
Oh, okay.
people were going back to No Way Home when sorry, Homecoming, where they were in Washington for like that whole spelling bee thing or whatever. I don't know. They're doing some
Mhm.
science thing in Washington, and Peter finds out that that there's the training wheels protocol put on by Tony Stark in the suit so that he can't access certain features of the suit. And then basically Ned goes in to disable that. But as he's going in to disable that, this is where people are sort of drawing this theory from, is that that's exactly what the suit looks like from the inside, all like teched out and everything. And like there's wiring. So they're saying that he's wearing that suit inside out as like a protective thing against
Gear,
Electro,
right? Oh, like it's resistant to like electricity.
because it's resistant. There's like rubberized material on the
Yeah, look at that.
inside.
He's bringing back the iron suit. Iron suit
Yeah,
was pretty badass, yeah.
there's
But it
two
was
versions of
necessary.
the Iron Cider. There's two versions of this suit in this trailer. This one,
Oh, okay.
which is the one from Infinity War, and then at the end, the spider
Mm,
is gold, and instead of the blue parts, they're black. So it's kind of like an integration of like um of
it's a bit inverted, yeah.
yeah, of the Iron Spider and the one
And
where
it goes
he,
against like Doctor
there you go.
Strange. Doctor Strange, like he has to have a good reason as well. Because one of the things that I was confused about is if he's so protective of like time and the balance, right, and all that sports sorcery and the magic, how come he was so, you know, quick to be like, yeah, that's fine. Like we'll grant this spell for
Did
you.
you ever watch What If
No,
entirely?
I told like if you watch it, like it'll help probably.
Yeah,
Is
because
that what
that's
you're saying?
canon.
Yeah, no,
What
that
If
is
is
canon.
canon.
Oh, it is considered canon.
Yes. So in the
Okay,
multiverse.
don't tell me because I actually want to watch it. But I have a feeling what you're gonna say. Basically, the wrong Doctor Strange was taken.
So people are saying that this Doctor Strange is acting a little sketchy.
He
That
is. He's
right?
like wearing slippers and shit. Yeah, yeah.
He's acting a little sketchy. There's a Doctor Strange episode in What If, and I'm just gonna say that watch that episode,
Okay.
and then you're gonna come to your own conclusion
It's
about
the
why
highest
people
rated one on
think.
IMDb, so there's quite a good reason why.
Yeah,
There's
there's
probably a
that
lot of
episode was really
rich,
good.
yeah, rich lore like in it.
Yeah.
Like look
Yeah,
at that. Like let's just pause that frame right here. Wait.
look at that. And
It
they're
reminds me
saying
of
that's,
Spider-Man 3, bro, eh? The climax. I don't know if that was
yeah,
done on
man.
purpose. Like it's like a
Well,
paying homage.
it kind of feels like it. And
Yeah,
look,
because the
pause it.
scaffolds and the build. Yeah, oh my god, even the lizards there.
Yes. So keep it paused here, man.
Yeah.
So if you see, people were also looking at like the at Spider-Man 3 images of when in the third act Sandman was like transforming into that big ass version of himself. They're saying that that's what he's going to turn into here, because the resemblance of like even the face to like what they did in like the Spider-Man 3, the OG, that they're going to have the same exact costume designs or designs as characters. But this shot, the next shot when they all jump at each other, is supposed to be one of the most highest, like the most edited shot. And if you actually, here, let's finish
Here, I'll
looking
play it.
at
Yeah.
this, and then I want to redirect us to a clip of the
Oh, like
Brazilian
this. So
trailer.
this shot you're seeing?
Pause it so
Yeah.
you see the
Okay.
lizard down there.
Yeah.
In the Brazilian trailer, this clip runs on for I think 2 seconds longer, and you
Okay.
fully see the lizard getting punched, and there's nothing there. So you see the lizard jumping, and he's clearly jumping lower than Tom
Much
Spider-Man,
lower.
all the way up
Yeah.
there, right? And you literally see in the Brazilian version of this trailer, he gets and there's
Yeah.
nothing
Oh, he
there.
just but nothing. Like he just like decides to get punched.
So people are
Okay,
like,
let's
oh,
check
this
that
is,
out. I gotta
yeah,
check that out.
yeah.
Brazilian trailer. That's crazy that different countries. Why is that? They don't put as much time into editing it. The
or I have no
Trailers for
idea.
other Sony
Here,
Pictures Brazil fucks up the. Yeah, here it is.
literally here, but that's a 7-minute video. Just go to like
Oh, okay. Like a trailer.
just search, yeah, search lizard getting punched, or No Way Home trailer, lizard getting punched instead of Brazilian there. Yeah, just put lizard punched. There you go. There's one that's just like a few seconds long.
Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah.
He's fully getting rocked by nothing.
So we now that confirms it, I think, right?
Yeah, man.
Oh
There's
my
bro,
god, that's
they're
because what it is that climactic shot. You're gonna have all three like jumping at them, right?
jumping at each other, man. This
Yeah,
is so
like
there's
you're not
little
gonna have
things.
one Spider-Man jump at three villains.
No, this confirms it. Like if they're not in there, then there's no reason for that. And I don't know if
No,
that's
no, no.
careless
But you have
editing.
to. I still remember like when I was watching. You know the Jar Jar Binks theory.
What?
How like have you ever heard of that? The Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. How he was
No.
like the hidden Sith, and he came across as
Oh,
like a buffoon, but he really was like orchestrating the whole events of this entire saga.
I heard. I
And
heard
like
something about that.
if you watch like the way he walks and his yellow eyes, right, and how he what he says to the characters, and I thought it was genius. Like they never proved it. They never like I mean it's always like hush hush, and they did a horrible job in my opinion with the Disney version because I thought they would expand on it more. But I think that was the intent because the whole thing with George Lucas is he like folk tales.
Yeah.
So Yoda, for example, was the more benevolent character, right? The creature you meet on the side of the road that kind of inspires you to be better and become better, right? So that's who he was to Luke. And then he wanted to flip it because there's another side, right? Just like with everything good and evil, that in the prequels, it would be Jar Jar Binks, like a character you would never believe would be capable of such sinister behavior, right? Malevolence. And basically, he would be the one to like kind of lure the Emperor and lure like Anakin. Whatever. Anyway, point is that my point I'm getting at that was a CGI character, and the reason why it made for a more compelling argument is these editors. It's not like the actor was like doing his own thing or like said the lines a certain way, and maybe he was like just like playing around with it. The CGI is manipulated by thousands of artists, and they're instructed by whoever's managing the team to do certain things, right? So it's at the end of the day, it makes it deliberate. So with this punch, what I'm trying to get at, the lizard isn't a guy in a costume. That's a CGI character. The head to be hit like that, that's not a glitch. That's not you could tell like
That's
that
intentional.
that was intentional. That was an artist, about a team being told at this point in the frame, his head needs to turn like this. If it was an actor, yeah, I'd say like, oh, what is he doing? It's almost like Star Wars when that stormtrooper hit his head on like, the door. Like that
Yeah.
happens, right? Like whatever. Like you can argue whatever. Not that it should because it's a professional movie. But in this case, because he's a CGI character, 100% it was deliberate.
Right. And I think
Like,
for this to be
I like how it
released,
ended.
that was the last shot.
Was that actually the last shot, or they just
Well,
being
no,
shit?
they were zooming. There was whoever
Oh
whoever made
no,
this
but that would
video
be
zoomed
so funny. Like, boom.
in. Just a close up of lizard getting punched by nobody.
Experience in IMAX 3D.
That's hilarious. So who do you
That's
think
crazy, man.
the sixth villain is gonna be? Because they've
Yeah,
released
that's right. The
5
Sinister
villains,
Six they were trying to pull off, right?
and I think they are. And I think
Okay, so
I
we have
think
Doc Ock. Let's go through. We have Doc Ock.
yeah,
We
Goblin.
have a Goblin. We have Sandman. We have Electro. We have the Lizard. Oh, the sixth. Okay. Oh, even the question mark. Oh no, that's something else.
So the sixth,
I would think it would be Venom. No, possibly Venom or like Harry
possibly.
Osborn.
I
Like
wouldn't be
with his own.
surprised if it was as safe an option as Mysterio and he's not really dead and whatever.
Oh, because
And
you have to connect. You know what it is? They might do that because they have to tie in
which is what I think.
the
Because
previous installments of Tom Holland. They can't kind of like forget about him and say, no, we like the new Spider-Man, the older
right?
Spider-Man.
Well, because
Yeah.
think about it, they have every single villain aside from Venom in there. And did you watch Venom 2?
I did not yet, but I will. Is that part of the universe? Like these Sony?
Okay, can I just ruin something for you? First of all,
No.
Venom
Okay, yeah.
2,
Yeah.
I don't like the Venom movies, bro.
I don't like them either.
The first one was okay. It was okay. So okay. And I liked that better than I liked Venom 2.
Okay.
Venom 2 was not good. The only thing that I will give to that movie is character design. I think the character design and the fight sequences look cool. The character design in like in the same way that I appreciated character design in like Transformers, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
those look sick. Sure, there are story plots, and it's not even as exciting as Transformers. I did not like Let There Be Carnage, but do you want to look up the end credit scene?
Do you mind if I do that on the side? Because I actually want to watch the movie. Is it on Netflix?
Okay, it's not. It's still in theaters.
Okay, don't
But
worry. I'll cop it. I'll cop. I just only
okay,
because like it's gonna like yeah like then I'll
okay.
never
Then I
watch the
can't
movie.
spoil. Then I can't spoil. Then
Okay,
I
don't
can't
worry, don't
spoil
worry.
it.
We're gonna have another. Don't worry, we're gonna have a follow up conversation.
In any case,
And yeah.
I don't think that it makes sense to bring in Venom. I
Okay.
think that that would be too much. They are though saying that because they're definitely setting up some altercation between Spider-Man and Venom.
Mhm.
Um, and they're even saying that next year there's like 2 secret Sony releases. And I wouldn't
Interesting.
be surprised if it had something to do with like a Venom and Spider-Man crossover.
Okay.
There's once you see Venom 2, I'll talk to you about why I don't think he'll be in this
Right.
movie.
Well, look at the video game, by the way, like coming out, like that you sent me for PS5.
Yeah.
The Marvel Spider-Man 2, like that having Venom in there, and
Ugh.
because Venom is the I know he's not considered the arch enemy because I searched this up, but I know he's like the most iconic villain
Oh,
for Spider-Man.
100%.
Because the arch
100%.
enemy is apparently like Green Goblin, whatever. Because the arch
Yeah.
enemy is usually like someone that has emotional ties to you. But
It's also just he's the longest running. He's one of the
yeah,
longest running villains. So
yeah.
I think that's why Goblin often gets associated with that.
But it's just like with
And he
Batman and
is.
Joker, right? It's like
Yeah.
the reason why, yeah, the Joker is because he stands for everything that he stands against for everything that Batman stands for, right? He's the opposite. He's anarchy and Batman's order, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I mean by like why Venom, because Venom is at the end of the day an alien from space.
Well, yeah. Well, they could
But I just
also
love
be
his
setting.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking that because they've actually been cleared. I think that they're negotiating contracts for Tom Holland to be in a secondary trilogy. And something that I heard in an interview with Kevin Feige was that they want to have 3 Spider-Man trilogies within the MCU. They want to have a Spider-Man trilogy of him in high school, which will be ending with
Oh, I heard of this
No Way
actually
Home,
too. Yeah.
a trilogy of him in his college years,
Yeah.
and then a trilogy of him as an adult Spider-Man.
Man, I completely forgot about that. That's a good point because I remember them saying their whole intention was to cast him at 19. I remember a lot of people like fan theories and things like that. When before the first movie came out, they said it was a strategic move by Disney, like MCU, because they want to have an actor they can,
Longevity.
obviously for a business standpoint, that's amazing. They can squeeze as much money as they can from him, like make a lot of movies with him. You don't want to cast someone that's like 30, right?
Yeah.
But that makes so much sense because I heard this that news story before.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I don't love that move in general. I think for this it
I
works
think it's
for
gonna
it,
be yeah. They got to
especially
be careful. It doesn't become like redundant. Like you get tired of it, redundant, right?
right. And this is what I think about this whole shared universe is that they'll be able to recycle villains and things throughout. And I think that their story, just the story mechanics of Marvel is just it's on point. So I think that they'll always have ways to intertwine these projects and everything. So I'm not too worried, but they are doing this with Uncharted, with who also has Tom Holland in it. And I don't know if you saw the Uncharted trailer.
Yeah, that's a separate conversation. But let's just say I'm not
That's
too happy with the cast.
me me neither, but this is what they're trying to do also because they want
Yeah,
to make a trilogy with that. So they casted him
yeah,
super
of
young.
course.
And then over the course of 3 movies, which could potentially be like 10 years,
Bro, who would have
maybe
thought
that's
Hollywood would turn to video games? Let me just say that to make their next like blockbuster franchise. Like video games were so frowned upon years ago, and I always said it. We did a podcast about video games, narrative, power storytelling through the medium, and I have to say, like, they better start making bangers in the next 5 years. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, that's a movie.
oh fuck.
Like get
Even
like
Death
Denis
Stranding,
Villeneuve.
man.
from freaking Blade Runner and make that. You know what I mean?
Literally
Or
all
or
of the
Dune.
story driven video games in the last 2 years could be a film in their own,
Oh,
because
100%.
they're original. And I think Hollywood, and statistically, the way that things are moving as a business, people are more inclined to invest in IPs that are known, which is why they're going towards this. And like, sure, there's still original movies being made, but the blockbuster movies that we're seeing are all sequels or interpretations of other media. Nothing that's an original idea, right? And I think that even in Free Guy, have you seen the movie Free Guy?
Yeah, Freeman, or Free Guy.
Free
I can't
Guy,
remember.
Free Guy,
Free Guy.
and
That's right. Ryan Reynolds. Yeah,
with Ryan Reynolds. So there's
yeah, that
a
was funny.
scene in that movie where Taika Waititi, which is the CEO of that company that owns the video game, and he's like Australian, he doesn't give a fuck. And he's
Yeah.
basically just trying to make money. So he says it perfectly.
Oh yeah.
He goes, "Hey man, so I made Free City 1, and that's doing awesome. What's my next move, man?"
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "Oh, I don't know, build off of the success and make another property." He's like, "No, Free City 2,
Yeah.
because that's what people want."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's so he
Familiarity,
was
right? Yeah.
right. And that's what these companies want in this day and age. They
It's
want
too much of a, you know what
immediate
it is?
profit, and they
What
want to
it
dig into something with an existing fan base.
exactly. It's too much of a risk. And I'll give you an example here. See, so as we're on the subject, leads us into our next point. So I'm reading this here, right? The future. The following month, Holland said he was unsure if he should continue making Spider-Man films, and stated he is hoping for a film to be focused on Miles Morales instead of Parker, and that continuing to play the character in his 30s, it may have been a sign that he had done something wrong. So back to your point about maybe they're proposing like 3 trilogies, and he's saying to himself, getting cold feet, like that's going to be a long commitment, and it might tarnish my career, right? And then they said, despite this, Amy Pascal stated that she hoped to continue working with Holland on future Spider-Man films. So I feel they're still going to push it. Back to your point about they want that to be a franchise maker. Miles Morales still, uh, I know this isn't like in the subjects we're talking about, but he should be making, they should be making a film like as we speak, because
Right.
that property is so hot and it appeals to everybody. You don't even have to call it
100%.
Spider-Man. Like I was going like really crazy, man, and thinking of like if I was the next Spider-Man director, I would do something crazy and argue like basically the whole storyline would be um what we say, right? Or what the cynical person might say, like the average person, like, oh, there's another Spider-Man. That's not Spider-Man. I remember who Spider-Man was. So what I'm trying to get at is like my proposal for this film would be like for Miles Morales is you don't even call it Spider-Man Miles Morales. You just call it Marvel's Miles Morales or Miles Morales. And the whole idea is that the whole arc of the character is that he tries so hard to prove that he is Spider-Man, and people try to argue whatever. And then he realizes by the end of it, like he says something like, if I can't be Spider-Man, then I'll be, and then you cut to like the title card, Miles Morales. You know what I mean? Because the whole
Yeah.
thing is that that's the whole concept of Miles Morales. What I took from it is be yourself, be who you are. This goes back to like being filmmakers, right? So many people we probably run into say, I've said it to my face, not in a condescending way, but in a realistic way, right? They would say things like, you're not going to be a Tarantino, you can't be a thing, whatever. And I said, yeah, you're right. I'll be Daniel Calderon. And one day someone will recognize me and appreciate me for who I am, like my brand, right? Because I don't want to be like Tarantino. I want to be someone different,
Exactly.
right? And I think that's the whole concept with Miles Morales that they should definitely tackle if they create a movie. I'm getting really excited now. I'm starting to write the
Well, bro,
script.
this is
Do you
well,
like the
no, man,
idea
this is
though? Because I respect
bro,
your
it's
opinion
incredible.
as a creative. Yeah.
100%. And in the interest of doing something different, and I'm so on board with that concept, man. And especially like to the point of what we were talking about like businesses being so safe, like just not as inclined to take risks. People with that mindset do what, for example, I watched The Eternals last week, and going into that movie, I was really excited because it was getting so much mixed reviews. And a lot
Okay.
of the negative reviews was critics being like, oh, they should stick to their Marvel formula. And I don't agree with that at all. I'm like,
Yeah, it's gonna get old
I
really
feel
fast.
like
It's already starting to get old, to be
it's
honest
it's
with
it's
you.
it's
I
already
watched
gotten old,
Shang-Chi. Yeah, I watched Shang-Chi, whatever, and Black Widow. Great films, like in the sense that like they weren't like appalling, but I was bored by half of it.
right?
Like,
And but
yeah.
and each of the movies that have followed Endgame have had their own vibe, and I appreciate that because they feel all different in that way. And it's harder to for me to compare movies that have just come out than movies a part of the Infinity Saga, because they all felt like not static origin stories, but there was definitely a Marvel formula to the origin. And now that things are moving forward and we're integrating new heroes in different ways in the story that don't feel like a traditional origin movie, like Shang-Chi pulled that off, I think, perfectly. It was very light, um, especially when you put it up against like Black Widow and like Eternals. But
Yeah.
Eternals, I appreciated for on its own merits. Like it was a dark film. It was surprisingly not a bloated movie in the sense where they needed to introduce 10 new Marvel characters.
Right.
The Eternals is made up of these 10 characters, and for them to fit story work, character building, world
Development
building
arc. Yeah.
around all that, while
Yeah.
also setting it aside to like feel like its own movie. The director herself even said that like she drew a lot of inspiration from Man of Steel, from the tone of Man of Steel. So
Gotcha.
you'll notice that there's a grayscale,
Yeah, there is a different feel to it. And even the
like to
poster is like a Zack Snyder looking poster.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's the most DC feeling Marvel movie, and I appreciated it for what it brought, because it
For taking a risk,
almost
man, right?
yeah. So and what I didn't agree with was what the critics were saying about it. We're like, oh, like they should stick to their Marvel formula, and I think they shouldn't. And to back to our point, like this is how they should approach Miles, in a completely different way. They shouldn't fit the narrative of Miles into how he is Spider-Man, but how Miles Morales is his own superhero. You know what I mean? Like he's his own hero. And I don't think he should be defined by being Spider-Man, though that's who he literally is. But to your point, they should make him feel like his own thing, almost to the point of maybe just calling the movie Miles Morales, like you were mentioning. And I liked how they nailed that whole story building in Insomniac's game, because
Like look, I get it helps with marketing, and it's also a respect to the community, like the
yeah,
demographic that watches it, because they want to be known as like Spider-Man. And who am I to say that? Like you said, like my style as a filmmaker, and you'll start to see it as I take risks and make films and things like that, or what I'll push as my brand, is always like subverting expectations, always doing things that like are not so satisfying, but it kind of grows on you. So the idea, what I'm saying is, he's not like, people don't say like Spider-Man, right? Or you show like people like against it. Like in the video game, man, there should have been some sort of like, they touched on it. Like there was like that cat owner or whatever, that guy who ran that like convenience store,
yeah,
where he was like, you don't look like Spider-Man. Like he just said something like a throwaway line like that. And I'm like, we needed more characters like fucking like, getting into it and saying, like, yeah, I don't want your help, you know what I mean? Where's the real Spider-Man? Get him. And like but just showing like the innate kind of genuine generosity Miles Morales is, that he ignores that and still kind of owns up to steps up to the plate and
yeah,
like does the job. Like that is such a powerful, noble act. Like just showing people, people that are persecuted, people that are discriminated, people that are suffering of being in hardship. That is the true definition of a characteristic of a good person, that they do it even though it's not in their interest, but they do it because they feel it's right. And I
exactly,
think that's what Miles Morales, for me, that's how I interpret the character is, okay, you're going to call it Spider-Man Miles Morales. Of course, you need to market it, whatever. Take the risk now. Everyone knows the character. When the movie comes out, just put Miles Morales and put Marvel above it, and then make the whole movie about that. Because the best movies, man, are a commentary on the audience. When you're watching it and you're saying, oh, like, yeah, like, that's true. Like I was thinking, like, why is he the next Spider-Man? Or, he's having reservations about himself, like doubt he's not up to that role. And I know, again, they touched on that, they did that, but I'm talking about like a darker, grittier, like basically a real life version of, if someone who is of Puerto Rican descent, Black descent, were to say, I'm Spider-Man as well, I have it to prove it. How fast would people go on to that idea? You know what I mean? Show that rawness. Show like how discriminative like people would be, and show how that would harden and transform Miles Morales into becoming like, you know, a hero that could stand the test of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Really
think
passionate about
that's
this character, man.
Oh man, I think there's so much potential with it, and like, and to your point, this is a great time to drop something like this because he's it's just such a hot IP, and I think that there's potential for him to be at the very least introduced in this film. In No Way Home, I know
Mhm.
that I had heard something about him already having been cast, if not to appear in this movie, then in something very soon. But I think that they'll use this movie at the very least to plant seeds. And there's a frame in the first trailer for No Way Home
Mhm.
before, and it's right at the end, right before they show Doc Ock's arms, and when the screen cuts to black and says, um, "Be careful what you wish for, Parker," and then it opens on a screen of just Peter's face, and then there's someone in the background, and then it goes to Doc Ock's arms coming through. But that
Yeah.
person in the background is this Black woman, and there are people who are aligning through confirmation of casting that that is actually real Morales in the limo, which is obviously Miles's mom.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, they got to
So
do something where they're like hinting at it, or like, because in my opinion, I like the idea of the whole uh two more trilogies, like showing him in his 20s and his 30s, whatever.
yeah,
But at the same time, I don't. What I really like is you wrap this up and then we start going into Miles
start a
Morales,
new thing.
right?
Yeah,
Now, what I really love is you do a Miles Morales trilogy, right? Same thing like here. You build it up, do great, right? Third movie, bring back Tom Holland. He's in his late 20s. You know what I mean? He kind of acts as a guide, like we saw
you
in
know
the
what
video
would be
game,
kind of sick,
right? Yeah, yeah.
and I'm gonna build off of what you're saying right here. If they did
Hmm.
even so, they're making the Marvels movie, which
Hmm.
is basically Captain Marvel's sequel, but also because that movie wasn't super well received when it came out, there was a lot of controversy around the casting.
Yeah.
They're introducing in this new movie post Miss Marvel release on Disney Plus. They're putting Miss Marvel in with Captain Marvel, which is, you remember in the did you play the Avengers game? You know
I
who
didn't play it. No, I remember you talking about it.
So the main character who you play with initially is Miss Marvel, who's that
Oh, okay.
this I want to say she's Pakistani or like Afghan. She's an Afghani
Hmm.
character.
Oh, I know
Um,
what you're saying now. Yeah, yeah. It
so
was in
so
the
she has these powers.
Disney Plus documentary, like how it was conceived. Like the artist
Yes.
was talking about like why she made them. Yeah.
So they're doing like this buddy cop movie with them. And
Oh,
I
okay.
would think that as a movie to introduce Miles Morales, if they didn't want to take the full leap into making a Miles
Right.
Morales movie, make
Hmm.
there be like a film or something where Spider-Man is like mentoring Miles, or like that they have a buddy cop thing kind of between them, and then they blast off into Miles's, just to set up Miles's thing. I
Yeah,
think
for
that
sure. I like that
I
idea.
think
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity, but I think also not like, I think we want to see all these things now and in this next movie. There's so much going on in No Way Home. I don't think they need to cram every idea that anybody's thinking
Yeah,
of
you
in
don't want
this
it to
movie.
sound, because there is a point, there's a cutoff, right? Like with anything, there's boundaries, right? It's like the audience will only take so much. For me, the most plausible would be to, because
Plant
they've
seeds.
already made it, yeah, they've already made it sensible where, like, you know, the multiverse would exist because of Doctor Strange. Like I like all that. It's not like they just pulled it because they need, you know, people to buy tickets for the last installment of the trilogy. But at the same time, like you said, like I don't want them to start throwing in like, okay, Miles Morales, whatever. You could do it in a very smart and subtle way. You could do like little techniques, like he runs into a guy that's Puerto Rican, like, you know, black, and he says like, oh, what's your name? You're new to the area, whatever. He's, oh, I'll see you around, whatever, right? And then like that's it, right? You could do like a wink, but I don't want him to see like coming at the end, like I'm here to help too and whatever. It's like, no, you know what I mean? Like
Well,
you
because
just
that moment
focus on the
needs to
Spider-Man.
be
Yeah.
that moment. Miles being there would be too much. That moment needs to be to see the OG Spider-Mans. Like
You
if
know,
they're
it'd
gonna
be
save
sick.
it,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
like if they're gonna not show it at all in this promotional material and they want to have that scene on screen, imagine like Toby coming on and then Miles coming in. It's like, oh, like you want to be excited for both of these things individually, but for it to all be at once would be way too much. So I don't
So
think, and
before
I
we,
think
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, sorry.
I was gonna say that I think that even if they just introduced Miles's mom as like maybe she's running because she's a mayor, or like she runs politically.
That's right.
If they had
Parliament,
her, if they had imagery of her like,
like a
oh, running.
poster or whatever, and not just an
Yeah.
Easter egg, like actually like show, hint to the audience, someone like me that's not watching 5 videos about like what clues are in the video, I mean the
Yeah.
movie, actually like you said, like a run-in, some sort of, maybe she's on the news, like doing a campaign, whatever, just hinting that there's a possibility. We all know what's going to happen eventually. Like Miles Morales, again, is too much of a hot property. It's really becoming iconic. I love the idea of like his take on Spider-Man, like the whole street apparel, and he's wearing the Nike Air Force. Like it's just, I don't know, I love it. As I'm wearing that, I'm wearing a red hoodie, right? So like, I'm just like into that style, and I think it's appropriate for this generation, right? Because we're into that look. But nevertheless, yeah, like definitely hint at it. Before we go though, I do want to say like, Spider-Man means so much to us as a character, and just inspires us to be better individuals. Really tap into that heroic side of ourselves. I want to say this though, like, there's no way that they're gonna not put Toby and Garfield in it, like in your opinion. Like you
no.
think that it's gonna happen, right?
Yeah, that's a for sure.
Okay.
I think end of the day, that's what's gonna happen. There's all this proof, man, leading to that. Like, there's so much proof. People are just waiting for the confirmation.
Yeah.
Right. But like I said, it's been confirmed that they've hired VFX teams from all of those movies. They've seen the same stunt doubles that they used for those movies for Toby and Andrew on set. Like they've seen all these things. And one of those things alone would be pretty obvious that they're in it.
The suits are hanging on coat racks. you got Garfield in front of a green screen. Yeah.
How much do you need? But it's hilarious because there's this whole thing online of like, of compilations of interviews that Andrew Garfield's done and everything. This guy's trying so hard to swerve in and out of like those rumors and everything. It's hilarious. And everyone's like, you need to confirm, I can see so he can stop.
Yeah, and Tom Holland said something stupid because he's like notorious for like leaking shit. So he said something that like only a liar would say. Like they're definitely not in it. Stop asking me. And I'm like, why would you say it like that? You know what I mean? Like
it's
he's
almost,
he said something stupid. Do you hear that? He like posted something. Yeah. He's like, I can confirm for sure they're not in it. And it's like, why the hell would we believe you now? Like out of all the times, you know what I mean? Do you remember that? He opened up the suit on like Instagram Live. He's like, oh shit.
That's funny, man. That's I do not doubt that they'll be in it. I for sure think it'll be a last act thing though. I don't think that they're going to be in it a whole lot. But I think it's going to be a last act thing. So they're going to come. Man, he really needs it.
Yeah, just before we go, like there's a lot of talk. Like I'm just reading it now. Like the trending stories is that the producers are already deciding like what are they going to do with him if they want what you were saying, like the next set of trilogies. And he's already like against it, so it'll be interesting. I don't think he's going to last like for 2 trilogies.
I think that honestly might also be a ploy to get maybe that's what.
Oh, you cut out.
Sorry, no. A lot of actors who are trying. Sorry, I think I'm getting messages. A lot of actors who are trying to renegotiate their contracts will initially reject it.
Oh,
so that they go back to the table.
You get some actor.
How much do you want me? How much
actor insight? Yeah.
Right. So how much do you want me?
Anyway, that's so true. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so thanks again for coming on the podcast. We'll do another one to touch base after the movie and talk about our thoughts. And you better pray. Everyone better pray that first thing we say is Toby was in it. Anyway, but yeah, tickets go on sale. I believe it's like Monday, November 29th or something like that.
We're 1 month away.
Yeah, 1 month away. But honestly, let's make this a rule between us. That is, because I know that social media I can't control. That weekend it comes out. Like, let's not like text or bother each other until like December 20th. Does that make sense? Because I'm still trying to like I'm gonna be watching on the 18th, like pretty much for sure. But God forbid, like I can't get the ticket till like Sunday, let's say. Like just let's make it that weekend, that buffer, and then it's any man's game after that. You know what I mean?
Okay,
sick. It's in God's hands. All right. Because I know Sarria is the kind of guy that'll text me like a GIF or something, and I'll be like, "Don't you dare!" Right?
Spoils the whole movie.
Yeah, your kids.
I'm happy.
Your kid's gonna be freaking out. Like, Daddy, is something wrong? Why are you hysterical in the movie?
I might not return. I might die.
I might not. I might stay there overnight.
Just start seizing
Yeah,
in
right.
the fucking.
Nah, they can't mess it up, man. They better come through. And like you said, they got all the leaks and whatever. Yeah, man, it'll be great. Okay. So thanks again, Marc Anthony Sarria, for coming on the podcast. Looking forward to touching base, following up on our experience watching Spider-Man No Way Home. And thank you everyone else for watching and listening.